content presented in this podcast is based on real events and may contain graphic descriptions of violence, sensitive topics, and explicit language that may be triggering, offensive, or sensitive subjects to some viewers and listeners. Discretion is advised. The purpose of this podcast is to explore and discuss true crime cases for entertainment and educational purposes only. This podcast does not intend to glorify or sensationalize crime, but rather aims to analyze and understand the complexities of human behavior in the criminal justice system. We encourage listeners to approach this content with empathy, critical thinking, respect for the victims and their families. All right, imagine this. You're barely out of high school, living your life, when suddenly you're accused of a crime so brutal it shocks an entire city. The pressure is to find someone to blame, and fast. No solid evidence. Just a couple of witnesses with shaky stories and a justice system that's more interested in closing the case than getting it right. The result? A young black man spends over 2 decades behind bars for a crime he didn't even commit. And here's the thing. This isn't just an isolated case. It's part of a bigger painful pattern that has been happening for generations. Since it's Black History Month, there's no better time to talk about the injustices that keep happening, the lives that get stolen, and the fight to fix a system that's been broken for far too long. It's time to start the show. Let's hit it. Hi, I'm Winnie Schrader, and welcome to another bonus episode of Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot. Tonight, the reason why I wanted to touch on this subject, since it's Black History Month, there is a crisis that is going on in the Black communities. Young men, they're barely adults. They get caught up in a broken system, wrongfully accused, convicted, with little to no evidence. And I see a pattern with this in the system that rushes to convict instead of doing it right, a system that is disappropriate, targets Black men, and rarely admits when it's wrong. This isn't just about wrongful convictions. It's about the countless others who never get a chance to prove their innocence. It's about police corruption, systematic racism, and a legal process that often too values convictions over truth. So that's why I wanted to talk about that. And I have a community activist here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Reverend Tim Christopher. He is a reverend at the Berean Missionary Baptist Church. He's a community organizer in Minneapolis, St. Paul. He's a husband, a grandfather, and a Second Right Amendment supporter, but he's not affiliated with any political group. So welcome to the show, Reverend Christopher.
Well, how you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. You've been a big part in the Minneapolis community, especially, everything kind of ramped up during the George Floyd incident. But there was a case here in Minnesota that it fell under the radar for me, but you followed this case pretty closely, and that's the Marvin Haynes case, where he was arrested at the age of 16 and spent nearly 20 years in prison for a crime he didn't even commit. And he finally got exoneration, which led to significant changes in Minnesota's legal system. So if you want to give us kind of a timeline of what happened with Marvin and how did he get convicted, wrongful conviction, and how did he get exonerated from that?
Well, we're going to talk about him. You also got to remember with Myron Burrell.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you know about him also.
No, I do not.
Okay, so Myron Burrell was a young 16-year-old boy that they said shot Thaisa Edwards, shot the little girl who was sitting at her table doing her homework, and then
Yeah.
they said he shot her. They put him in jail at 16.
Okay.
Okay. And that was under Amy Klobuchar.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. I do remember that case. I didn't know that they charged somebody who was probably the wrong person for that. I just
Yep.
remember the case as well. Yeah.
So Myron Burrell goes to jail for 18 years. They finally figured out it wasn't him. They let him out.
Wow.
Then you had Marvin Haynes, who they swear up and down was at the flower shop when the flower shop owner was shot and killed.
Okay.
Going into this situation with him, what people need to understand is the sister of the flower shop owner could not, and they were face to face now. I want you to understand that. So the sister and the person, the suspect, were face to face with each other. She could not identify the person. When she did identify the person, she said that the person that she came face to face with had short hair. Melvin Haynes didn't have short hair.
Okay.
But they had to find someone who murdered this cop. They actually, I mean, not the cop, I'm sorry, murdered this flower shop owner.
Okay.
So what the police department did is they found character witnesses. They found, people who were in prison already who would take a deal. Say, if you say he did it, right? Then we'll let you off a little bit. And so in all these cases, even in Myron Burrell's situation, the main thing was the lies from the police. Okay. The police in Myron's Burrell case, they interrogated this kid for hours, even though he sat there and said, "I want my mother."
Oh God.
They still interrogated him over and over and over and over again. Same thing with Melvin Hayes. They interrogated him, 16-year-old kid. They got him in there saying he murdered somebody. Then there's another one that I'm working on.
Oh,
Philip
no,
Vance.
another one?
Oh yeah, Philip Vance is in the prison system in Rush City right now, and we're trying to get him out. Matter of fact, we had a press conference on him today. So there's yep. Katie, the prosecutor with the with Philip Vance case. Basically what these prosecutors do, just like Amy Klobuchar, Amy Klobuchar used Melvin Hayes and Myron Burrell to get to the point to where she is now. When Amy Klobuchar ran for president, and she had her little town hall meeting there at the school in St. We shut that down. Good. We literally got on stage and would not let her come on stage until she addressed Myron Burrell's case.
Good.
Right? And we went after her and made sure everybody knew that she was the one who used Myron Burrell's case to get to where she's at today. If it wasn't for Myron Burrell, more than likely Amy Klobuchar wouldn't be in the situation she's in right now.
That's terrible.
Right.
To use that as a political springboard.
Yes.
To put somebody innocent away in prison.
That's right.
At the age of 16.
That's right.
That's ridiculous. Why
It
is she
is.
still in office? People need to hear this. Amy Klobuchar needs to be put out of office. I've never voted for her. I'll never vote for her.
Well, this has been a case that's been out there, and it's been something that we have talked about. We've made sure, but your white liberal who could care less will put Amy Klobuchar back in the office, even though what she did was wrong, and
Right.
and she can't come to the forefront to say that she did it, that what she did was wrong. She can't do that. With Myron Burrell, I sat in chambers. I sat in the office of the Attorney General, Keith Ellison. It was myself. Okay. It was Nikki, and it was Myron Burrell's sister and Myron Burrell's wife. We sat in chambers talking to Keith Ellison about this case.
Okay, and what did Keith say to you when you asked him the question?
Keith basically said, I don't understand why he's in jail, why he's in prison.
Wow. Okay.
And then, and that's when the story basically took off, and a lot of the black activists in the black community got involved in the case. And they opened up a new case for him. They found out again, like I said, the police officers basically they were so corrupt in this case. They got him a new, he got a new trial. During that trial, they said, you know what, we got to let him go because pretty much everything they did was wrong. That's how Myron Burrell got out of prison, because they realized that the police had done a terrible job. That's how Marvin Haynes got out of prison, because they realized the police had done a terrible job. And if everything goes well, Philip Vance will be getting out of prison because the police had done a terrible job.
Yeah, and it seems like, especially with the Minneapolis Police Department, it seems like it's just an ongoing issue consistently. And it just seems like that portion of it is never addressed. Now, when George Floyd happened, the police officers had their trial. Chauvin got charged and is put in prison. But, it's like, okay, it just doesn't stop there. We still need to dig a little bit deeper here and find out what is going on. Why are they pinning these crimes on innocent people? And that is scary to know that if you're just a black man at the wrong place at the wrong time can completely change your life. That is scary. And to know that that's a fear that you guys have to walk around with
every day. And you brought up George Floyd and Derek Chauvin, and I will be the first one to tell you, Derek Chauvin did not have to go to jail. George Floyd did not have to die, but because of the system and the way things were going, because if you know who Philando Castile is, correct?
Yes, I remember that case vividly.
If that cop had have went to jail like he's supposed to, we wouldn't have had George Floyd, and we wouldn't have had Derek Chauvin.
The newly released dashcam video shows the moment when Officer Geronimo Yanez stopped Philando Castile for a broken taillight last July, first asking Castile for his license and registration.
I have to tell you, I do have a firearm on me. Don't reach for it then. Don't pull it out. Don't pull it out.
Within 90 seconds of making the stop, the 29-year-old officer fired 7 shots. Castile's girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds, was in the passenger seat. She streamed the immediate aftermath on Facebook Live.
I told him not to reach for it. I told him to get his hand out.
You told him to get his ID, sir, and his driver's license. Oh, my God. Please don't tell me he's dead. Please don't tell me my boyfriend just went like that.
Keep your hands where they are, please.
Yes, I will, sir. I'll keep my hands where they are.
As Officer Yanez continued to point his weapon at Castile, you can see an officer coax and pick up Reynolds' then 4-year-old daughter, who was in the back seat during the shooting.
Get the baby girl out of here!
Yanez was quickly suspended from the St. Anthony, Minnesota Police Department and soon indicted for manslaughter. During the trial, Yanez said he feared for his life and thought Castile, a 32-year-old school cafeteria worker, was pulling out a gun he was licensed to carry. Friday, the jury acquitted Yanez of all charges. Valerie Castile is Philando's mother.
My firstborn one son died here in Minnesota. Under the circumstances, just because he was a police officer, that makes it okay. Oh, now they got free reign. He's found innocent on all counts.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because that case and that cop walking basically put the fuse into the keg, a keg that had already been made because of the tension between the community and the police department, right?
Right.
Only thing you needed was a match. Derek Chauvin and George Floyd was that match. And once that match was struck, there was nothing anybody could do. But before that, had that cop went to jail for murdering Philando Castile, and they would have took the system and tried to fix it or make something happen that was going to hold these cops accountable, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe Derek would have been sitting in jail right now. I don't believe Katie Porter would have been sitting in jail right now, because Katie Porter made a mistake. She did, right?
Yeah.
I'll be the first one to say that. But because of the atmosphere, Katie Porter had to go to jail.
Yep.
Once she shot that kid, and she thought, her taser was she thought her gun was a taser.
Yeah.
She had to go to jail because of the situation that we were in at the time. If Derek Chauvin hadn't happened, Katie Porter don't go to jail. If Philando Castile's murderer would have went to jail, that situation with Derek Chauvin and Derek would have never been to jail.
Right.
But they let one go.
Yeah.
And they got two for one.
Right. And it's because there was nothing put in place systematically to deter these things from happening. They could have upped the proper training for these police officers, psychological care. I always think a police officer should, every 6 months or 3 months, should have a psychological evaluation. Because when you're dealing with stuff like this on a daily basis, it does mess with your mind. And to make sure that these cops that are on the streets, sworn to protect us, are not losing their crap and just start pulling their trigger and not thinking things through properly. And I know Katie Porter, she did say, she did adamantly say she really thought that was her taser and she made the mistake. Okay, so what can we learn from that? Not put her in jail. Was it lack of training? I mean, come on, those are the things that we need to fix, the things that caused the problem to exist in the first place. And you're very much right. Yeah, if we didn't have those cases prior, we would have never had the George Floyd and Derek Chauvin case and things like that, because there would have been something put in place to prevent those things from happening to begin with.
That's right. And one of the things that I always tell people to do is, if they want proof of anything that I say, pull up the DOJ report that was done a couple of years ago on the Minneapolis Police Department. That place was rife with corruption and the things that they do. Now, another thing you can also pull up. Did you hear about the Christmas tree that the 4th precinct put up in the Black community?
Yes, I do remember that Christmas tree. I remember it having like stereotype,
hot fries, malt liquor,
Yeah.
Newport, Newports, anything in the black community that black people do, they put it on this Christmas tree. Now, think about it for a second. This is a police department in a black area.
Mm-hmm.
That you can't make that up.
Mm-mm.
You understand what I'm saying? You can't make that up.
Ugh, gross.
Right. This is what people have to deal with in that community when they're dealing with police. Right?
That's terrible.
Right.
Oh
But-
my gosh.
Like I said, the way we have been treated all the way back, you go all the way back to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. The same thing they were saying years ago, we're still saying today. The justice system is broken.
Yes.
And the justice system seems to always fall, and we're victims of that justice system. No if, no ands, or buts. And I know everybody always, per capita, black people are always doing this. Black people are always doing that. I mean, you hear that story all the time.
Yep.
I'm talking about the black people who don't do anything. Right? I'm talking about the black people that goes to work every day to do things they're supposed to be doing. The Terrence Crutchers. Terrence Crutcher was pulled over for what? For speeding. The police officer decides that, you know what? I'm going to harass this man. He goes walking back to his car. He gets shot in the back by a police officer, and nothing happens. You're talking about Sandra Bland. Nobody knows what really happens with Sandra Bland, but she's a black woman that died. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about a kid where it basically all started, where George Zimmerman decided that even though they told him not to go chase this kid, George Zimmerman went and chased that kid in a state that stands your ground. Mm-hmm. So if George goes and attacks this kid stands his ground, he pulls the guns out and kills him. So George now is the only person that can tell the story. After they told him not to go and mess with him, leave him alone. We don't need you to do that. That's exactly what was said. He went anyway. That kid died. George Zimmerman became a hero of the Republican Party, running around selling and signing Skittles. This is the system that we have to fight every single day. Every day.
That is so disheartening to know that. I mean, I just don't understand. When people say, per capita, the problem is it's not, people don't understand it. You don't commit a crime because of your race. You don't commit a crime because you're black. You're committing these crimes because the majority of the black community is living in poverty. They have a lack of proper education because the cities, police, states, they're not putting the money and the effort to make these communities what they deserve to be. You know what I mean? It's like it's just this whole systematic thing. And it's like, you can't sit there and say all black people commit crime. There's plenty of white people that I know commit crimes. Trust me. But the majority of white people who commit crimes, it's mostly because they live in poverty as well.
That's right.
People don't commit crimes because of the color of their skin. They commit the crimes because of the circumstances of which they live in. And if we want these black communities to start thriving, we have to figure out ways to help them thrive, not keep putting them in prison and supposedly taking bad guys off the streets, because apparently the people they're taking off the streets are not bad people.
You know what I mean? It's so broken. But we do have to take a quick break. There is a documentary that I did watch and you watched as well on Netflix called Trial 4. And that is the case of Sean Ellis, who, he had 2 hung juries, and yet the DA kept pushing this guy to go back to prison. So he has gone back to trial. Now he was leading up to a 4th trial. So we're going to talk about that when we come back from the...
Attention, all you true crime lovers, the wait is over. Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot merch is officially here. If you love murder, mystery, and a good glass of wine, now you can wear your obsession with our exclusive collections of tees, hoodies, and more. From Talk Crimey to Me to I'm Only Here for the Alibi, we've got the perfect designs to sip and sleuth in style. Now, I'm only getting started. So what are you waiting for? Head over to mysteriesmayhemandmerlot.net and click the merch tab at the top of the page and get to sleuthing. Don't just get your fix by listening to true crime. It's time to start wearing your obsession too.
Okay, we're back from the break. As I mentioned, the documentary Trial 4 about Sean Ellis, who kept having a hung jury or mistrial. And so they kept coming back, kept trying to put these charges and convict him of a charge of killing a police officer, very similar to the case that you were talking about here in Minneapolis. So when you watch the documentary, now this is in Boston. Now, Boston Police Department is about Minneapolis Police Department's racism times 10.
Yes.
They were horrible to the Black community. And now when this happened, I believe it happened in 1993 in Boston. Boston Police Detective John Mulligan was found shot 5 times in the face while sleeping in his car outside of a Walgreens. Now, on October 6, 1993, Sean Ellis, he was 19 at the time, was arrested and charged with his murder, and largely based on the witnesses' testimonies and circumstantial evidence. So it's more of that character witness, hearsay kind of stuff. And when it comes to capital cases like this, I honestly think hearsay and character witnesses shouldn't even be allowed because, like you said, people can lie. Incarcerated people, they're going to say whatever the heck you want them to say so they can get 10 years off their sentence. So when you watch the documentary, what was in the beginning of it, what was kind of your expectations at the end? And watching it, how did you see his case progress to the positive for him?
Well, like I said, I remember the case without, once I start watching that, I remembered that case because I kind of studied it a little bit while it was going on. But leading into that case, right? And they talked about this in the documentary of Carol Stewart. Remember her? The white lady that her husband shot her, but then he said, the husband brother shot her. It was set up, and he blamed a black man for it. And the Boston police years before went crazy and went through the black community and just was pulling black boys out of their homes and some of everything. And so that showed the racism of the Boston Police Department right there. So when we get to Sean and his case and what was going on with him, it was just a matter of time for them to try to find a way to pin this on someone other than who they were actually looking at before, because remember, they went after his girlfriend first. And then they start talking about the cop being dirty and this could be a setup. And because the way they shot him, right? They shot him with a cross in his face. When they was talking about it, it was a cross. So the police department, once they tuned in on a black person, that was a wrap. They just needed to find the black person. After that, there was nobody else that they were looking for. They wanted to look for. They wanted to have part of this case. We're going to find a black person. We're going to put it, because it's easy to do that. It's just like it was talking about the Carol Stewart case. It was easy for a husband to say a black man shot him, knowing that he orchestrated his wife dying. Blame it on a black person. It is that simple. That simple.
Right.
Blame anything.
Well, for instance, the Susan Smith case back in 92, she supposedly she got carjacked, and a black man took her car and her children were in there. So the whole time they're searching for a black man driving with 2 white babies in the backseat.
Right.
Hello. And just, oh God, I was so mad. And to know she did it herself, and oh gosh, I was so unnerving. But so Ellis, the first 2 trials, like I said, were hung juries. Now in January 1995, a third trial convicts him of first-degree murder and armed robbery, and sentencing him with life without parole. Now, in the 1990s to the 2000s, the investigations did reveal that Mulligan, the officer that was shot, and some other officers in the case were very corrupt. They were planting evidence.
Yep.
And and they were also stealing drug money. So, but Ellis deserved to go to jail. 2015, a judge overturns his conviction after a ruling that the evidence of police corruption was withheld from the defense. Now, that to me is prosecutorial misconduct. And I hope people got fired for that. So, but he still had the legal battles. So when is enough enough? When can somebody say, hey, I am not guilty of this. You need to quit harassing me. Where do we have that protection, especially for the Black communities? Because I feel Black communities, often they don't have proper representation in court. And are there any organizations and things like that in the Boston area, in the Minneapolis area, where Black people can go and try and, whether it's a scale pay or some type of, free services where they can get the proper representation if they find themselves in court?
There's a couple organizations out there that wrongfully conviction. I got a shirt on right now. I don't know if you can see that, but
I can see it.
Wrongfully conviction group. This group here takes care, help people to get some help from somebody. But there's not really, the sad part about it, there's not really much you can do. I mean, once the police department lock in on you, they will find people, number one, to testify against you. They will find, goofy lies to put on you. And because there's nothing you can do. There's nothing really you can do to fight back on any evidence that they bring to the DA, especially if the DA looks at your case and thinks that, what, this could be a springboard for me to go forward, to be a state senator or be a state representative. Look at what I've done. I've prosecuted all of these here. It's like that cop that we was just talking about in Boston. He was supposed to be like one of the top cops with over 500 arrests. Come to find out, some of those arrests really wasn't right. 500. He had 500 arrests. He's supposed to be up here, an awesome cop. But when they start digging, we find out he wasn't that cop that everybody was saying who always loved to work and worked all the time and blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. It's the same thing with Derek Chauvin. If you Google Derek Chauvin, you're going to see that Derek Chauvin cost the city of Minneapolis. They just paid somebody $600,000 because of Derek Chauvin. right? Derek Chauvin wasn't that cop that they all tried to make him out to be at the end of the day. We found out that he had dirt on his hands, just like a lot of other cops, just like all of these cops that quit the police force. They didn't quit the police force because somebody was doing this or something. They quit the police force because they knew that they wasn't the type of cops that could actually change. They had been so into doing something this way, they wasn't going to change. And if they didn't change, they were going to jail. That's why the cops that are there now are doing an awesome job. Those cops that stayed are doing an awesome job because they was willing to change from the corruption but all them other ones who decided, oh, I'm leaving, and that left the police force short.
Yeah.
No. They left because they knew they did not have the ability to not be corrupt and dirty. That's why they left. Let's tell, if we're going to tell the truth, let's tell the truth.
Right. And if I were a police officer going to a police force like that, and that's what I was seeing, I'd definitely walk out the door. I'd be like, this is
That's
not
right.
what I signed up to be a police officer.
That's right.
I can be racist on my own. I don't, it's like, I don't understand that mentality. And you would think that somebody who chooses to be a police officer, that's a hard decision to make. You're giving up your time, commitments, sacrifices. You're putting yourself on the line every day. And to know that they're using that to their advantage and destroying lives of innocent people is just so disgusting and just unhumane to be seriously. Like they're not even looking at the people they're supposed to protect as even humans. They're looking at us
True.
like rats.
True.
And we can't have that mentality in our police force. And like with the Sean Ellis case, thank God the last attorney he had, I'm not going to even attempt to say her last name. She has a very Italian sounding name, and my Minnesota mouth cannot say him, but her first name is Rosemary. So we'll just call her Rosemary. But she was a go-getter and a fighter, and she did everything she can to get him exonerated because she's like, this is crap. And she was the one that really dug deep and exposed the corruption of the police officer that supposedly he killed. But more than likely, it was probably a drug deal gone bad or something like that because he was so corrupt and dealing with that kind of stuff behind the scenes. It's like, and the police department didn't want to put a scope on him because probably all the way up to the top seat was involved in stuff like that. So it would expose everybody. And that's probably why they do these type of cases and just pinning it on the easiest scapegoat they can. And that's a black man.
Well,
it's,
and if you think about it, going through the show that we watched, the casings are in the passenger seat. So the gun had to be, and they even said that whoever shot him put the gun in his nose and pulled the trigger. So somebody was either more than likely sitting in that front seat, correct? So whomever did it, he knew who it was. Think about that, right?
Exactly.
To be that close.
And like for instance, if Sean Ellis was there and if he did have the gun, it wouldn't been like the way he was shot and killed and how they mutilated him. To me, that's very gang. That's very mob.
That's right.
They're making a point. They're destroying your face so you can't have an open casket. That's not something that just a bystander criminal that robbed a convenience store would do. They would shoot and run. They wouldn't sit there and destroy your face. So it definitely had something to do with that. But it was like the whole district attorney and the DA, the prosecutor and everybody were so hell bent on trying to make this stick. Because like I said, it was covering their own ass because they knew if this stuff got out, the whole Boston Police Department would have been probably dismantled because it was
it's
still bad there.
Especially when it comes to the corruption. And you look at that whole situation again, and 5 shots. You got to stick around. You got to stick around for just 5 shots. This wasn't well, I'm just going to walk up and, pow, pow, and that's it. No.
Yeah.
This was pow, 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 pow. So you're sticking around and somebody around there, I mean, it's a Walgreens, could probably see you. So whomever it was that shot him was very, very comfortable with what they were doing.
Right. And more than likely, like you said, it came from inside the vehicle, not from outside. And yeah, it's just sad that knowing that our justice system is this corrupt and feeling like we don't have enough, I guess, not enough. I think it's going to take more than just, community organizers. I mean, I feel like there really needs to be some type of really strong platform to get this nationally addressed, because it always seems like it's compartmentalized in cities and it just stays there. But this is a nationwide problem and it needs to be addressed. And that's why I wanted to have you on today to talk about some of these issues, because it's still ongoing. And so I urge my listeners to reach out to some community organizational groups, see what you can do, volunteer your time, even if it's to be a big brother, big sister to some of these, unfortunate kids that don't have, both parents, they don't have a sibling to, kind of guide them. Even those little things can make such a huge impact in a community. And so I'll put up some resources and links for that as well in today's description. Well, thank you so much, Reverend Tim Christopher. You are a pleasure to have on, and I'm so glad that I know you. Okay, now to shed some light on Black History Month in a positive way, I have some fun facts in history that you may not even know about. Now, did you know that it was a Black woman that became the first woman to be a millionaire? And I'm not talking about Oprah. The woman to become the first self-made millionaire in the United States was Madam C.J. Walker. Walker developed, marketed, and line of beauty products, hair products, specifically for Black women, creating a nationwide business that provided employment opportunities for thousands. Now, through her company, she became the first documented female self-made millionaire in America. Now, she rose from poverty in the South to become one of the wealthiest women of her time. Now, she used her position to advocate for advancement of Black Americans and to end lynching. Now, the first self-made Black man millionaire in the United States is widely believed to be William Alexander Leidesdorff. He was born in 1810. He was an African and Danish descent and became a successful entrepreneur, ship captain, and a real estate developer in San Francisco during the mid-19th century. Now, he amassed a fortune through shipping, trading, and land investments and played a key role in developing early California. Now, here is my favorite all-time Black History Month feel-good stories. Now, the Tuskegee Airmen, aka the Red Tails, were a group of African-American military pilots and air crews who fought during World War II as part of the United States Air Force. Now, they were the first Black aviators in the U.S. military, earning their training at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, which led to their name, the Tuskegee Airmen. Now, the Tuskegee Airmen were initially met with racial prejudice, but proved their skills and bravery in combat. They served as fighter pilots, flew escort missions for bombers, primarily in Europe and North Africa. Now, the 332nd Fighter Group, part of the Tuskegee Airmen, became renowned for its impressive record, including over 15,000 combat stories, 1,000 missions, and the destruction of more than 100 enemy aircraft. They were known for their distinctive red-tailed P-51 Mustang aircraft. Now, the Tuskegee Airmen broke racial barriers, showcasing the excellence and the capability of Black service members in a time of widespread segregation and discrimination. Their legacy paved the way for integration of the U.S. military and has a lasting impact on the fight for civil rights today. Many Tuskegee Airmen were awarded prestigious honors, including the Congressional Gold Medal in 2007. So thank you guys so much for joining me on this. I hope this was enlightening for you and just kind of give you a perspective of being in somebody else's shoes. So thank you guys so much, and I hope to see you all next week.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot. And until our next case, my armchair detectives, stay safe, stay vigilant, and stay aware. I'll see you right here next week on Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot.